Hi everyone, it's really great to be back here Thursday evening 5:30, and I hope that I'm going to be able to share some information with you that is useful. So a large part of my practice is made up of treating dogs and cats with acupuncture, and I am often faced with lots of questions about it, and I try my best to explain how it works. And often the pet parents are wanting to know how well will the animals tolerate it, and why are we even doing it. For those humans that have actually had acupuncture done, they're a lot easier to convince. Most of them have had good results, and some of us have had dry needling, so that's often what the chiropractor and the physiotherapist do, and it is a little different in that dry needling goes into a muscle spasm, whereas acupuncture is into a specific point on a meridian. So we'll go into a little bit more detail, and acupuncture is less painful in my opinion than dry needling. They both have a role to play, and they both will stimulate healing. So acupuncture, many people think that acupuncture started in China. In fact, the records of, on archaeological sites show that acupuncture was being practiced as long ago as 10,000 years. And they know this because they found mummies, and on those mummies they found tattoos, and the tattoos correlate to certain points, acupuncture points, and those points, then what they found is that the skeletons in the mummies had problems. And then when they started to look at, oh well, this mummy had arthritis of the knee, they found that the tattoo marks on the skeletons actually correlated with points that could be used to treat arthritis of the knee. And so these sites are found. Hi Colleen, so I hope that you can all hear me. These sites have been found. Let me just see if I can improve the sound a little. So let's just see. You can tell I've been away. Let's try that. Let me know how that is. So these sites were found on a number of continents: South America, Eurasia, Africa, and all around about the same time, indicating that the practice started actually right about the same time throughout the world, and it is assumed that it was the medicine men that performed this act. The reason that it's often attributed to the Chinese is that around 5,000 years ago there was an emperor that decided that acupuncture needed to become officially recognized and written, and so he tasked his doctors with writing down everything that they could and what they knew about acupuncture. The Chinese have their own system of medicine called traditional Chinese medicine, and acupuncture is an integral part of that way of treating. And we probably won't go into it a lot today. There's an opportunity to look at traditional Chinese medicine perhaps in another talk. Essentially, acupuncture is about placing a needle, and they are solid needles, into a point on the body, and those points lie along meridians or channels. And the channels are thought, in traditional medicine, the channels are thought to be the way in which energy or chi is distributed throughout the body. And I'll run through some of the channels in a little while, or the meridians. But the other thing about the channels is, as we do more research, we are gaining a better understanding of why they work. So those acupuncture points are actually points that are very rich in receptors. And if we place a needle into that area and we stimulate the receptors, those receptors can then release different chemicals into our bodies. And those chemicals can vary. So it could be histamine, it could be adrenaline, it could be endorphins, which are the body's natural morphine and natural pain controlling chemicals. So the chemicals that are released will vary, and primarily when I was taught Western acupuncture, the main reason that we use acupuncture is to assist with controlling pain. As I've studied more and as I've gained more knowledge and I've been exposed to more traditional Chinese medicine, we also understand that the effects of acupuncture are far greater than simply managing pain. So the meridians are also thought most recently to run along what we call anatomical trains, and those trains are areas of connective tissue or fascia which then connect one area of the body to another. So for those of you that have watched my talk on myofascial release, you will see that fascia connects everything, and therefore I can place a needle in my ear and I can positively influence my left big toe because everything is interconnected with regards to by the connective tissue and the fascia. And so the more we study it from a Western physiological perspective, and the more we start to understand what the Chinese actually wrote and what they annotated and what they understood in terms of the systems of the body. Remember that they didn't have the laboratories that we have now, and so a lot of what they did was observation. But I digress. So in my hands I have an acupuncture needle, and they come in, I buy them, these are already sterilized, and they come with a guide tube, and inside there, if I take it out, here is the needle, and I don't know how well you're going to see this, but the needle is quite fine. It's solid. It's a lot finer than a hypodermic needle, so those needles that we use to inject dogs and cats, and it's quite easily, it can move quite easily. And they come in different diameters and different lengths, and depending on what points we choose as an acupuncturist, we may choose different needles, lengths and sizes, and it depends on the animal as well. And so primarily we want to place a needle into a point to get a response, and most of the time that response is to manage pain, but not always. So why does it work? I've already looked at, that we will stimulate certain chemicals to be released within the body, but essentially we are also fooling the body into believing that it's been injured. So if I place this very, very fine needle into a point on my body, I am actually injuring myself. And the body has very specific responses to injury, and that's what we want, because injury or those responses to injury will bring about healing and repair. And so we get an increase in blood flow to the area where we place the needles. We also get a release of the neurotransmitters, which I've already mentioned. Locally, if we have a muscle spasm, then the insertion of the needle will also assist in releasing that spasm. And for dry needling, when we place a needle into a trigger point or into a muscle spasm, that's exactly the effect that we're getting, along with the increase in blood flow. And with the increase in blood flow, we get all those inflammatory products that come to the party, which are really essential for the body to repair itself. So, and the blood carries them there. And so we get an increase in blood flow, an increase in the good stuff, and the body we facilitate healing within the body. So we enhance the healing. Now, let's look a little bit, that's from a very scientific perspective. And I must say that if anybody does a search on PubMed, which is one of the main websites where we can find articles, published articles on any number of things that have been researched, the last count was more than 18,000 published articles on acupuncture. So it is a very well researched phenomenon, and it has been proven to be very useful in a number of conditions. In veterinary medicine, one of the main reasons and one of the first reasons that I used acupuncture was to manage pain. Now, I work in a physiotherapy and a rehabilitation clinic, and many of the animals that come into my facility have pain. And so it's a very useful adjunct. Please, it's an adjunct. It's not there to treat things. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's not the only thing that is going to assist. It's used in conjunction with physical therapy. It's used in conjunction sometimes with drugs, and often with drugs. Often the patients that come to me are already on medicine, and the medicine is working, but we're looking for something extra to assist the body. So where do we use acupuncture? In my practice, largely to manage pain and to manage muscle tensions and compensatory patterns. But if we move to the Eastern viewpoint, or the Chinese viewpoint of acupuncture and the meridian system, then we need to also understand where that system comes from and why it's effective. So there are 12 meridians in the body. They occur in pairs, and their job is to distribute energy throughout the body. So if I had to briefly just say, we start, let's say, so they run on the inside and the outside of the body. They run deeper and more superficial, and they run from one to the other. So if we had to start with the lung meridian, and each pair of meridians is active for 2 hours of the day, and there's 12 pairs, therefore 24 hours. So in a period of 24 hours, the energy runs along the channels or the meridians from one to the next, and it distributes the chi or the energy throughout the body. And when we have pain or disease or dis-ease, it's because we have a blockage of energy. And so placing a needle in an appropriately chosen point will assist with the flow of energy and therefore the relief of certain symptoms. And so, as I said, in physiological terms, we are facilitating the repair within the body. In Chinese terms, we are enhancing flow and energy, overcoming a blockage, which then leads to balance or health. So the meridians, let's say we start at the lung meridian, which starts at the front here. It runs along the inside of my arm, and it ends on my thumb. The next meridian is the large intestine meridian. That then starts on the outside of my arm. It runs on the outside. So we've gone from inside to the end. It now runs up, up my arm, and it actually ends at my nose. It then joins the stomach meridian, which then starts also on my face, and it runs around and it comes down the front of my body. And now this moves from the front, and in a dog or a cat or a horse, it's from the front legs, it moves along the abdomen, it comes onto the back leg, and it ends on the inside of the back leg. So now think about the energy flow. We've started inside, we've gone up, then we've gone to the outside, we've gone to the head, then we've started from the head, we've gone again inside. So inside, outside, inside, from the front to the back. The next meridian that then joins the stomach meridian is the spleen meridian. Sorry, the stomach meridian runs more on the outside. The spleen meridian then runs on the inside, coming up the inside of the back leg, up the belly, and ends on the chest. The meridian after that is the heart meridian. It starts again here, runs on the inside of the arm, and so we go on. And so if you see that the one meridian joins onto the next meridian, joins onto the next meridian, eventually, and they lie on both sides of the body, so I have a lung meridian on the left and the right of my body. So the energy is being distributed over my body along these meridians. If I have a disease and there's a blockage, I'm going to find the point, or I'm going to, by listening to symptoms or listening to you and examining the animal, I'm going to choose certain points that are going to assist to get that flow of energy to come back into the body. So that's, that really is quite simply put. I don't profess to be a veterinary acupuncturist. What I do is I practice acupuncture on animals, because there is so much knowledge, and the more that I read and the more that I expose myself to research, and the more that I expose myself to other available sources of information, the more I realize I know very little. Having said that, I know enough to see the success in my animals. So what do we treat? Definitely lots of pain. So if the dogs have got hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, arthritis, stiff muscles from secondary compensatory patterns, we are definitely going to be using acupuncture to treat those conditions. If we have got a nerve condition, let's say we're looking at intervertebral disc disease, which I've also discussed in a previous talk. So now we have a herniated disc. It's extremely painful. There's actually been research which shows that if we perform electroacupuncture, so then once we've placed the needles, we place little clamps and we put an electric current to run through those needles. It increases blood flow to such an extent that often the result is better than doing the surgery. So that research has actually been looked at and written up, and what is encouraging for me is that there are many families where dogs have been diagnosed with disc disease, and surgery is not an option simply because it's frightfully expensive. We do have another option, and we certainly can help many of those dogs to overcome the pain and to regain use of their legs if they're not able to walk. So the last thing that I want to say, or what I want to end off with, is that I alluded to it in the beginning when I said many people think that the animals won't tolerate the needles. And I want to just tell you a story about the first cat that I ever treated using acupuncture. From my veterinary background, and I'm sure those of you who have cats will know that cats can be particularly difficult to restrain, and they definitely don't like being treated, and they don't like needles. They don't like injections. And so I came into acupuncture, using acupuncture as a therapy, and a person phoned me and said, "Would you treat my cat?" And to say that I was anxious and nervous is an understatement. And it is really amazing how the universe works. So the cat was about 10 years old. I can't remember what his problem was. And he came into my practice, and for those of you that have been here, I had couches then, I still have couches now, and this cat settled himself on a couch and he started to purr. And I very nervously took out my needles, and having consulted with the client, and then I chose a few very elementary points because I was had only just begun, and I very carefully placed the first needle, and the cat's purr got louder, and he didn't move, and he didn't run away, and he didn't have anyone holding him in place. And so I proceeded to place about 10 needles over this cat's body, and the cat, not once did he move away, not once did he stop purring, and he lay there for the next 10 minutes with these needles in him until it was time for me to remove the needles. And I firmly believe that that cat was sent to me as a gift from heaven to show me just how well animals tolerate acupuncture and how well they understand that we have the tools to assist them to get back to health. So I hope that I've given you a little bit of something to think about. There is so much more that we could talk about. And if you do want to have me talk about a specific topic, please pop me a message on Facebook or even on this feed. I'm just going to quickly scroll through to see if there are any questions, but there aren't. Hi Megan, I've just seen you watching, so that's great. And yeah, that's it for today. And I hope that I will see you next week, same time, same place. Have a really lovely evening. Thanks for your time.